I look forward to your questions.
Mr. Bergin, thank you for your statement. Thank you for your service to our nation. And we welcome your family members who would join you here today. I thank them for their support of your service to the country. Mr. Bergin, for nearly 30 years, I've been a member of either the House or the Senate Committee on Veterans Affairs. I cannot recall a time in which I thought that the legislative affairs of the Department of Veterans Affairs was as helpful to me as a House member or as a senator, but more importantly to my constituents. I can't recall the time in which I thought, wow, this is really a good job being done. We had a bit of this conversation in my office, and as I became a leader of the Veterans Committees, I had more opportunity to have conversations and hearings with those who were assigned the task of improving service to members of Congress, service to the committees, but most importantly, our efforts to make sure that veterans who need our help are getting our help. So if confirmed, what actions would you take early on? What's the first steps you would take in your tenure to improve the quality and timeliness of VA's communication with Congress, instill greater accountability within the Office of Congressional and Legislative Affairs, and set the stage for better working relationship between the VA and this committee? How would you measure that success?
Thank you for that question, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I'd like to start with one of the central tenets I learned in the Marine Corps was the qualities of leadership aren't taking on roles and missions because they're easy. You take them on because they're worthwhile. That's why I'm here. As was pointed out, and I'm sure will not come up in future questions, I have been working as a senior advisor to the Secretary since April. And in that role, and the reason why the Secretary brought me on is because he realized a lot of the issues that have been raised here, a lot of the challenges, a lot of the feedback, and he even experienced that as a congressman over in the House. And I will say to that end as well, as a staffer who's worked, I'm looking at the back row over there, but I've spent some time over there. And Senator Blumenthal, I'd like to compliment you for hiring a fellow Tar Heel. I've spent time back there, and I know the frustrations of the challenges of actually getting responses back from nearly every agency in government. I can't commit to you that it will be perfect, but I can sincerely commit to you that I will use experience that I have both in leadership and in working in Congress to get that done. And to that effect, in my current role, I've spent time making recommendations on the way the office should be organized as far as actually personnel roles, and then also on processes. I had the good fortune of working in the Marine Corps Office of Legislative Affairs, and I sincerely appreciate the leadership of the Marines that I served with over there. I think they built a good model, and I'm trying to take away from that model the experiences that I have that I thought were valuable, and then add on top of that the other experiences that I've had while working in Congress. So to that end, first of all, what was most striking to me when I started was the dearth of what we call congressional relation officers here, both in the Senate and in the House. We're pretty short-staffed on that end, and I find it very challenging to be able to accomplish this role without having those assets out there, the people that are knowledgeable, both of your offices and your issues, being able to provide that candid feedback to the Office of OCLA and to the Secretary. So I've made recommendations that we staff up in those positions. And I've also made recommendations internal to processes as far as trying to respond to the committee in a timely and useful manner, like providing you relevant information that's actually substantive to your requests. Because my experience has been when you don't answer questions, you tend to get more questions. You also tend to get more hearings, and I don't know that that's what anyone wants here on the committee, and I certainly respect your time. So if confirmed, sir, I will continue to work on that and implement some of the recommendations that I've already made.
Mr. Bergin, thank you for your answer. And I appreciate that it's a difficult task getting timely answers from any department or any agency, almost without exception. And I don't know what the exception is, but I want to give somebody the benefit of the doubt in case there is one. But I do want to highlight that this is not an ego kind of thing, because when the Department of Veterans Affairs fails to respond to us, this committee, the members of this committee, the members of the Senate, it further jeopardizes the life and well-being of veterans across the country. And I've said this so many times, mostly what I know about what veterans are encountering is because they'll stop me on the street, they'll send me an email, they'll tell me the story, and that begins the process by which we try to solve problems, sometimes individually, and sometimes those individual problems then lend itself to us figuring out how do we solve problems for more than just a veteran, but veterans across the country. And so your job, if confirmed, is hugely important. I mean, you indicate, and I believe you, that you're doing this for by motivation of wanting to care for your fellow veterans. This is a task that needs the attention, not because you want to make members of this committee happy, but because if you provide the information, perhaps we, along with many others, can serve those veterans and make their life longer, healthier, and the benefits they need to care for themselves, their education, their family. It's different than just the usual complaint that I suppose members of Congress might have about an agency that doesn't respond and doesn't function well. The functioning of what you do can be a life or death circumstance for those we all serve and all care about. Senator Blumenthal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And